Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Woodstock Board of Education to order. This is our annual budget community forum. So we're actually going to start with a presentation from Woodstock Academy on their budget for 2012-2013. So with that, Mr. Campbell and Mrs. Singleton from the Academy are here, and they'll take us through the PowerPoint. Thank you for coming, both of you. We appreciate you giving up time on a weekend for this very important issue.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully that will be a little bit better. I'm going to try and present to you the budget that, the draft of the budget that was presented to our Board of Trustees actually just last week by Headmaster Karen, who, by the way, does apologize for not being here. He had commitments scheduled previously for this weekend that he could not be able to get out of. So he has sent Ms. Singleton and myself here to do this presentation. There's two or three different things that I want to make sure I cover because we obviously have embarked as an academy on a couple of different areas that are certainly departures from the past. Probably the more significant one is our international student program. And I know that there have been a lot of questions about that in the community, so we're going to try to answer as many of those as we can, hopefully with the presentation. And if you have any questions when we're done with that, we're more than happy to field those and answer as many of them as we can here. And if there are any that we can't answer today, we certainly will take them back and get answers for you as time allows. A couple of things, obviously, that go with budget packages are simply putting together all of the various pieces that make up not only the academy but any school. What you have in front of you is the finance committee members of the Board of Trustees. This is the group that reviews the budget prior to it being presented to the Board of Trustees as a whole. As you can see, there are 9 members altogether. 4 of those members are made up of representatives from 4 of the 7 towns, being Brooklyn, Eastford, Pomfret, and Woodstock. Each of those towns have representation not only on the Board of Trustees, but also directly on the Finance Committee. Beyond that, we obviously always consider the mission of the school. The key components of this being providing academic rigor, safe environment, and diversity of educational experiences that we've begun to focus in a much different way than we had in the past. But it's always something that we keep in mind, not only from an academic standpoint, but from a financial standpoint as well. We also have a set of frameworks that were put together by the trustees in a couple of different formats. Our accreditation group, NEASC, was part of it, as well as a set of strategic goals that were put together and approved by the Board of Trustees, actually back in, I think, 2006, and they've been updated at least twice since that time. As far as budget goals for this particular year, you can see, obviously, is one of the objectives is to support the Academy's mission in the framework for advancement. It's to augment the operating revenue through enrollment management plan, which again was something that the board did put together and approved 2 years ago. It was one of the major recommendations from NEAS, and it was also a major part of our strategic goal, was to establish some form of plan in terms of what our enrollment plan and project projection will be over a period of years. And you'll see a little bit more about that in a few minutes. It was to provide staffing levels necessary to support the educational excellence that we believe has existed at the Academy for a long time, as well as to provide diversity in the program that allows the students as many opportunities as we can provide them. And maintain a reasonable cost for the sending towns. I think we'll be able to show you that we've done pretty well with that. One of the factors that comes into play, obviously, is the enrollment from the sending towns. We had a very decent stretch, if you will, at least from the enrollment perspective, for a good number of years. If you go back 10 or 20 years, the enrollment from all of the sending towns was very healthy, and the enrollment at the Academy was increasing almost every year for that period of time. Unfortunately, that has changed. The enrollments at most of the sending towns is certainly steady, if not, I should say, no more than steady. In most of the towns, it's actually declining. We've seen, again, you'll see this in a couple minutes, but the enrollment from sending towns has really changed pretty dramatically in the past couple of years. So one of the things that we've attempted to do is to fill that gap in a couple of different ways. We have done a marketing campaign to the local areas, to the parochial schools, and other towns, not looking for other towns to join us, but simply looking for students from those towns who would be attracted to the Academy for the programs that we offer, and be able to join the Academy from a private payment situation. And we obviously are aware always of what the current economic conditions are and how that impacts each of the sending towns. So those are all factors that are coming into play. Hopefully, you'll get a sense of the enrollment issue that we've been facing with this slide. You can see going back to 2002, 2003, we were just over 1,000 students at that point. In the 07, no, the 08, 09 year, I guess. The 08, 09 year was the peak, 1184. And at that point, all of those numbers in that period of time were predominantly sending towns. We did have a handful of tuition paying students in those years, but the predominant enrollment was coming from the sending towns. And since that time, you can see that it has dropped pretty dramatically to the point where in this current year, the current school year, the enrollment from the sending towns has dropped back into the 1071 range, 1,071 students. So about 100 student difference in the last, 4 years. The enrollment management plan that I referred to basically took a look at where the enrollment had been, where we saw it going, and what we have tried to do is pick a point where based on our current facility, based on our current faculty and staff, and based on the current programs that have been being offered. The Board of Trustees determined that, if at all possible, they did not want to see the existing programs deteriorate. They also felt that if we could do something to hold the current staff levels, that would be what was something that they would want to see happen. So the enrollment management plan basically targeted the dotted line that you see as the point of enrollment that would best fit all of those requirements. And basically it's sort of right around somewhere between 1,100 students, 1,100 and 1,125. That's basically the targeted enrollment number that we try to gear our operation to, if you will, both academically as well as financially. In order to accomplish that, as I mentioned, we had the marketing effort geared toward the local areas, but it became obvious that that wasn't going to keep us at that level, at least certainly not in the short term. And we decided a couple of years ago that the international market was strong enough and had been actually for a number of years for schools. There are several schools in New England, privates as well as other independents, mostly independent schools in northern New England, who have used the international market as a way to stabilize their enrollment for several years. Some of them are new to the program, similar to us, in the fact that they're only in it for maybe the last 2 or 3 years, but there are other schools that we've been able to speak with and actually gear some of our programs around that have been doing this for 10 to 15 years. And we're using their expertise as a guide, if you will, as we go along. What you see here is what we're projecting the enrollments to be from each of the sending towns for the next school year. The enrollment from the sending towns is estimated to be down to 1,032 students from the current 1,071. And to hopefully bridge the gap, we're looking at hopefully having 20 private day students from the local areas. That number is currently 9. We're hoping to be able to double that for next year. Our international population, which is currently 47, will grow to 52. And we have a buffer at the moment, other, that you see here. And what that represents is the marketing that we've done to parochial schools, where we believe there are students beyond the numbers that we've already seen in the past, of students who actually live within the sending towns, but come to the academy through or directly from one of the parochial or private schools in the area, and they simply haven't been identified yet. I mean, they haven't made a commitment, or they're not saying what they're doing, but we certainly hope that they will end up at the academy, and there's already been a couple of them that we're aware of that will be making that move. So we don't believe they're in the numbers from the sending towns, which are pretty much geared toward the enrollments at the actual schools. But that makes up the number that we're looking at. The target is 1,111 students for next year, which is actually exactly the same number that we budgeted for the current school year as well. As far as the budget itself, These are the major components of the budget. You can see that we're estimating our expenditures at $13,779,000. This is a $148,000 increase in wages and benefits, most of which actually comes from benefits. I'm pretty sure that the breakdown is about $30,000 in increased wages and $105, I think it is, in benefits. Most of which obviously comes from medical insurance, but we're estimating at the moment only a 5% increase in our medical insurance versus about 8 to 10 that we incurred in that line last year. $94,000 increase comes from facilities. We've gone through 5 years worth of postponing, deferring facility improvements or repair. Some of those can no longer wait. This amount we hope will cover the bigger areas that we need to focus on, and just feel that there's no longer a way we can defer those costs. And then a $21,000 increase in transportation, utilities, and supplies. This is just a general economic change that's occurring. I think most of us are facing those. As far as revenue, there are pieces of revenue that we use to offset the expenditures. As you can see, we have some investments that generate revenue, facility use, and other reimbursements, and then the special ed piece that's billed separately by student to each of the towns. And therefore, the tuition that we need to account for from the per student tuition base ends up at $12,997,000. As far as how this breaks down from the enrollment that you saw earlier, this will actually generate a decrease overall to the 7 towns of about $133,000. The difference is being made up by the private tuition fees. There will be an increase in the revenue generated by private tuition of $382,000. And what that all translates to is a per student tuition of $11,699, or a 1.95% increase in that number. Anyone have any questions so far? Thank you. Okay. We do want to show you the private tuition piece in a little more detail. Also want to explain a little more about what our goal and the goals and objectives are in this program. It's, as I mentioned, part of our comprehensive enrollment management program. It also provides us with an emphasis on 21st century global themes. It provides opportunities for our existing students in terms of getting a worldwide perspective. The Academy has always had a pretty decent program of travel, if you will, for the students. The offerings, there's 3 or 4 trips each year for the past several years, where the students obviously have the opportunity to go to other countries and observe other cultures and so forth. What this international student program is doing, however, is bringing those cultures here. And we believe that this is not only a benefit for the Academy overall, but it's certainly a benefit for the existing student base in that they get to see and interact with different cultures every day. It also obviously enhances our independence by providing us private revenue, and it honors our strategic goal in accenting far as the numbers are concerned, the estimated revenue from the international student base is anticipated at almost $2.2 million. From our private day students, we're anticipating a $274,000 revenue, or a total of just under $2.5 million in total. As far as expenditures are concerned, out of that money, a total of $842,000 is going to be placed into the operating budget as an offset. And again, this is a $350,000 increase over the current year's budget. And salaries and benefits and other instructional costs absorb $738 of it. And then the residential piece that's tied in with the international students accounts for $877,000. So that you can see that the totals back. There's some pieces of that I'd like to discuss because I think there are pieces that you may have questions. As far as the residential program is concerned, we obviously do not have dormitories on campus. And from perhaps an ideal standpoint, economically, that might be the better option if we had it. We don't. And because of that, in order to provide housing for the students that are coming in, we have a number of host families in the area that are supporting the program by having students, international students in their homes. And we certainly appreciate what they're helping us with, but there are also students that either do not want that or we have more students than that particular group of folks has been able to accommodate so far, and we have had the need to have residential housing of our own. We have been, since the beginning of this school year, leasing 2 properties in North Woodstock, actually northwest Woodstock. And while those properties are certainly decent for what the program needs are, they're also 10 miles away from campus, which means that the students don't have the same kind of access to the campus facilities that they would have if we had dormitories. So what we have been trying to do is find properties closer to the campus. We've actually purchased a property actually adjacent to the campus, if you're not aware of that. And we will be looking for other properties as close to the campus as we can get, where the students can actually live and walk to school, so that it cuts down on our transportation costs. It also provides them a much greater opportunity to use the school facilities, mostly the library, which is where their real interest lies, but also they can utilize things like the gymnasium when it's not being used by our athletic department or other activities, so that they have a place to exercise as well, and they do use it. One of the things in regard to those properties, however, that seems to be, I'll call it confusing at the moment, is as opposed to the campus itself and other educational facilities in the area which take property off of the tax rolls, these properties are not being taken off the tax rolls. We are paying the taxes, the property taxes on these properties as we buy them, just like we do any of the other rental properties that the academy owns. So I want you to be aware of the fact that we're not buying properties and utilizing them for this particular aspect of our operation, and taking them off the tax rolls of the town as well. We are paying the taxes. this is a decision that the Board of Trustees has made. There's no agreement with the town.
There's no, so next year you could say, we're not going to do that.
Theoretically, because we are a nonprofit, the answer would be yes, but the trustees have determined that for any of the needs of this program, that will not be the case.
At this time?
I think they pretty much determined. Could they turn around that decision? I mean, the answer, I can't say that they wouldn't do that, but certainly not going to happen anytime in the near future. We do have rental properties that the academy has owned for a number of years, and we've been paying the property taxes on those properties the entire time. So there is a history there.
I just want to clarify.
Can I ask a question about in regard to the rental properties, for instance, in West Woodstock, that the students are living in, that's like a student dorm, and you know how it affects the neighborhood and the community and the property value of those homes? And has the academy or the trustees considered that as a factor of the community around them and their neighbors and so forth? The impact that what those homes have on the neighborhood?
What do you think the impact has been?
I don't know. Might want to ask the neighbors there. I just think that it's really nice to have a diverse community. However, when you have all students, teenagers living in a home that's not a family home in a family neighborhood, sometimes it can have an impact on the neighborhood. And not in a positive way, anyway.
Not right.
Just a thought.
We have considered that.
Okay.
I think is the answer I would give you. We don't believe that there is a negative impact on the community or the local area, if you will. One of the properties really actually is isolated. It doesn't actually have a neighborhood, if you will. There is one of them that is in a cul-de-sac. There are a couple of other neighbors there, but it also, I think there's only one that actually is within sight of the property, but we maintain the property as a residential property. If you drove by it, I don't think you would even know that the students are there. So, and it's not because we try to hide it, but that's just the way the property is. So,
just going to follow up on that. I think it's great getting international students in, but do you have any plans? Does the academy have any plans to kind of roll out to the public for this program, be down the budget for it, and really highlight how great this is, and talk about in a transparent way where these properties are that you're looking to rent, that you're looking to purchase. Talk about what you said about the tax roll. I mean, I guess I would encourage you to do that, because right now there seems to be a lot of rumors, a lot of talk in town, and I guess I'm not clear why that wasn't done in front of this program, but I would certainly want to know, is that something you guys plan to do now? Because I think it would be helpful, certainly with a lot of questions in town, but certainly for the academy as well. Since you guys are so highly respected, this sounds like a good idea from everything I'm hearing, but still, I want to test that.
the answer to that is yes. We are gradually planning. We've been gradually planning to do it. It's one of those. I'd have to go through the whole background and I will, because it's only 2 years old. I mean, we started the program with the intent of having someone else run the housing side of the program. I won't say with the intent, but that's the way we did start. We knew that we would eventually be taking it over, but we thought we could do it in a planned manner. Unfortunately, it didn't work as well as we hoped it would for the first year, and we had to take the program over sooner than we thought. And we've been playing catch-up, kind of. So we will be doing some of that. We've already started that. The headmaster and Ms. Farrell, our assistant principal, have actually been on WINY to talk about the program. The headmaster has talked about it in at least one other forum as well, and we do have plans to roll out some of the things that we have mentioned in different formats in the very near future. So you will hear more about it.
Yes, good morning. I understood that some portion of the private tuition, the international students and the private payers was going to be endowment, but I didn't see that on the budget breakdown. Is that not the case, or?
At this point, that's not true.
So none of the private tuition is going into the endowment at all?
No. Not that it will in the future, but it's currently not, and probably won't happen for at least the next couple of years. It is paying for all of the costs. Any added cost of the program is being covered by the international tuition, however. I will say that, including the cost of the housing.
Do you have a breakdown of where the students are hailing from to make up the program?
At the moment, the majority, probably 95% of the students are from China. We do have a mix of students from, well, we've had, some of them are only coming for a semester as opposed to a full year. We've had students from Germany. We had a student from Germany in the first semester. We have a student from Spain. We have 2 from Korea that are on campus already. There's a student who is actually from Mexico. He's living within one of the Senate houses. He came into the school at the beginning of the year from Mexico. So that's the mix at the moment.
What is the responsibility of the academy in regard to supervision of these students?
We are totally responsible for their supervision. In conjunction with their parents. We are in communication with their parents on a regular basis.
But someone stays, someone lives there as well.
There is adult supervision in each of the housing units that we have. Obviously, the students who are in host families, the host family parents are the ones who have that responsibility. And we are in communication with those folks on a regular basis as well. And those folks are in communication with the actual parents, the Chinese parents of the students on a regular basis.
I have 2 questions. The first one, is the program being marketed internationally similar to that of studying abroad? You know, back when I was in high school, if you wanted to study abroad for a year, it was sort of a simple process and it wasn't costly, but this costs me a lot more. So is it being marketed that way to other schools, or is it being marketed more like a private boarding school?
Well, it is being marketed, but it's being marketed through agents at the moment. We're not marketing it directly.
Because, I mean, there's a lot of countries out there that, you know, especially South America and China as well. I mean, how are you going about getting a diverse group of
Right now, in order to do it as quickly as possible, we try to diversify the mix of students. We've been trying to use agents. There are 2 or 3 different organizations of educational consultants and/or agents, depending on what they call themselves. We are associated with 2 of those groups already and have attended a couple of conferences that they've held.
So are they going to where the money is? You know, is there more money to go over there, or is it?
The money right now is China. The economic conditions are such that China is the market for students who want to come to the U.S. 5 years ago.
There's one point to consider with that. I'm the president of the Board of Education. One of the
things that we're looking at with this program is not only the financial benefit, although that's certainly an important piece, but our intent for having a program that's diverse and representative of countries globally is for the important points of diversifying our student body at the academy. So if Mr. Karen were here, he would tell you his goal overall is to have representation across all the continents of the globe. I'm thinking Antarctica is going to be a little difficult. But certainly our plan, right now, we were able to more easily attract students from China, but that's clearly not our plan for long term, that we would have diversity across a number of different continents, as well as a number of different cultures. So even if so it's not just the Asia Pacific region, so diversification isn't, we have students from China, Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore. If we have some from the Asia Pacific region, South or Central America, potentially from Europe, although some of that recruiting happens a little differently, as well as maybe even eventually Africa and other regions.
And for my next question, I think the program's great. I do. But my next question is, you said they operate budget, and maybe this is somewhere, forgive me if I'm not aware of it, is over $350,000 more than in the past? Is that what you said earlier?
No, what is happening is the revenue generated through the international program has added $350,000 of revenue to the budget. It's not, obviously there's a cost of the program as well. It's up to 2 points.
Well, I think that the reason I'm asking is one of my biggest concerns, because this program, obviously costs more and zero budget concerns. After you figure it all out, are you going to turn to the Board of Ed and say, we need all of this money, so now the low grades are going to suffer?
Quite the opposite.
What we're saying and what we're showing you, or at least attempting to show you, is that while yes, we're maintaining an enrollment level that's 1,100 students, 1,100 plus, the students who are coming here from an international area, regardless of where it is, any of the programs that we have to add because they're here, which is primarily so far basically second language kind of programs, ELL, and so forth. Those students, the tuition for those students is absorbing the cost of that program. The revenue that they are bringing in reduces the amount of tuition revenue that we need to get from the towns, and that's therefore really why we're able to provide a tuition rate that reduces the cost, overall cost of the 70 towns. And we show you the next slide. We'll start with this. There is a decrease in revenue that we'll be receiving from the sending towns of $133,000 for next year versus what we're getting from them this year. And yes, some of that is because of the decrease in enrollment from the sending towns. But at the same time, our private tuition students will be providing us revenue for our operating budget of $382,000 more next year than we're getting this year. Therefore, in total, we'll be receiving $842,000 in revenue for our operating budget to maintain the programs that we've had available to all students. Okay, so that all students get the benefit of $842,000 in revenue from the international student program. What you can see here is what happened, what the impact of that $133,000 is on each one of the towns. Brooklyn will see a decrease of $197,000. The town of Canterbury, actually because their enrollment is increasing, at least at the academy, they're going to see $148,000 increase in the tuition payments to Woodstock. Eastford gets a benefit of $30,000. Pomfret, 24. Union actually has an increase of the students, so they're going up by 13. The town of Woodstock will see a decrease of $125,000. Does that answer your thing? You come close to answering your question? I think that what I hope that you would get out of the presentation is the fact that the cost, any cost associated with the international program is absorbed by the tuition that those students pay. So if there is an additional program that we had to add because those students are here, or an additional cost for their homestay or anything related to that, they pay for that. They also pay a tuition to basically be able to get their education here, just like any of the local students are doing, either through the towns or privately. So the thing that it has allowed us to do is maintain, and actually in some areas we've actually increased programs gradually, which not only benefits, not only do the international students get the advantage of that, but all of the other students that we have from all of the 7 towns benefit from the fact that we've been able to maintain our music program, our fine arts program. We've increased the number of AP courses that the students who want to go on to college can take. We've increased the number of courses, early college credit courses that we have tied in with the University of Connecticut. All of those things have increased in the last 2 years, and all students get the advantage of that. We have 6 languages, 6 or 7 different languages that are available to all students, and so forth.
The other example I can give you is math, especially in the high-end math. So in the past, we had, I used to be a teacher voice in the class. We offered BC Calculus, which is, for those of you who are non-math people like me, math with a lot of symbols in it, beyond AV calculus, beyond calculus. In the past, we maybe have had 2 or 3 students every year in our regular population that are brilliant enough to be able to do that at high school. That's a really hard thing to put into the budget to create a space for a teacher to teach those kids. And we've come up with alternative ways. We've had them take online courses at Johns Hopkins. Now with some of the international students coming in, because their math is quite exceptional also, it makes enough to offer that class on a regular basis with a teacher. And then we'll be offering probably next year multivariable calculus. I don't know, there's math beyond regular calculus, but there are a lot of different versions. And here again, because the international students are coming in, and because they're paying their tuition, they're benefiting our kids, that 1% of kids that need those courses that in normal budget we wouldn't be able to offer. So it's just another example.
What a great segue into lowering class sizes at the lower grade levels and offering programs targeted at exceptional students and not targeting the average. We need support. If you look at this graph, you see the upturn and project the levels here. These are the students you need to focus on. So you can expect a great and well-educated student body by 8, 10 years down the road. So I'd love for you folks to look.
And I guess that's my concern is that it's great that you've now got international students who seemingly are coming with greater skills. And it's great that those classes still exist. But if they now exist primarily for international students, well, if those are largely the ones who are there, and maybe you still have that same 1% coming out of the sending towns, coming out of Woodstock, That's a problem, and I would like to see all the chips rise. And this does indeed look right on Board of Education. Talk about offering all these languages. Awesome. Let's offer some languages in Woodstock schools. So this is my real concern, is that we don't have this disconnect between you've got some amazing, excellent international students, and then you've got basically we're doing the same thing we always have in Woodstock schools. And I mean, I work at a private college. International students, it's great, but thinking that you're just going to put them in there and there's going to be this great imagination thing going on, it doesn't work that way, especially if they're living 10 miles away.
It's actually the opposite with the multivariable. It's just domestic kids right now that I have that are ready to go on to that. And I actually don't have international students that are ready to go on to that. So I had to create a multivariable opportunity for 2 kids. I think they actually might be from the town of Woodstock, who are, maybe one's from the town of Woodstock, who need that opportunity because they're ready. If I had some other students, international or whatnot, I might be able to have a full class. But so right now, at least the domestic students that are pushing.
And as you said, this is 2 years this program, so it's really going to be hard to solve. Right? It's something that I think we keep in mind locally.
One other thing to consider with that is that when we look at our overall program offering, it's not just targeted to, we have this operating budget to support our operating programs. And what we do as we look at those programs with the academic committee, with the administration of the academy, is to look at a balance of course offerings that benefits all of our students. So there's not really a specific directed effort that our program is directed specifically here because we have international students. It's Woodstock Academy offers this breadth of program offering to benefit all of our sending town students, all of our international and our private day students, so that we have the best breadth of program, so that while we're graduating for seniors, our students that are well prepared to move on to whatever college or university they choose to attend to, whether that's a technical school or into the workforce. So it's programmatically looking at each area of our offering and seeing what we can accommodate with the revenue. By balancing our enrollment, it allows us to stabilize that revenue and be able to keep programs going. So if I think you read one of our bulletin yesterday, that our culinary arts program isn't specifically targeted, for example, to our international students. That's not that they can access that program, but that's just a benefit that's not strictly focused on a college-bound senior.
And I'm a little hesitant to ask this, so we don't have to address it at this forum, but the football program and the football stadiums, is there going to be any additional cost that goes out to some towns on what's happening with that? Because I don't, personally, I'm not that much of a football fan, but I know there's also some questions about the building, so maybe you can just say a word or two about it.
All right. First one I'll say is that we don't have a stadium. We have a field. And it does have seating. But it's not a stadium. The cost, I'd like to say no, there's no cost. But there is a debt service piece that will be obviously part of our budget. However, I can say very, very clearly that debt service cost is replacing debt service that already existed. We have debt service that's been retired because of a building project from 20 years ago and the cost of the athletic field expansion that is underway will actually fit within that time frame, so there will be no increase because of it in our overall costs, but it will carry that cost forward. If you want to hope that explains it. But the financing that we're using for that is through the USDA. It is a low-cost loan financing, and actually is currently based on a 40-year payback. So it's keeping the cost as low as we possibly can. The financing is better than we could get anywhere locally. And there's also no prepayment penalties that go along with it. So if we're fortunate enough to be able to run the fund somehow, whether it be through private sources or other donation type things, having will be able to pay off soon. So that will all benefit at some point in the future. There is also a baseball field that's associated with that, by the way. And the field itself is a multi-purpose field. It's set up to accommodate not only football, but soccer and lacrosse. So those activities will benefit from that field as well. And it provides us, obviously, a different playing surface than we've had, which we've had one field to accommodate all three sports and the sub-varsity levels that go along with that. So that's part of the reason why we felt we had the need to add that field.
Have the marketing efforts that have gone to local towns, have they increased as well? Because I will tell you yesterday I was teaching at a local parochial school with 8th graders and listening to them talk about where they're going next year. This was not mentioned by any of them. And I was sitting there and I didn't say anything, and I was just listening to them, how they were talking about how they wanted to go to Marianapolis or Concord Prep, and then a couple are out of state Massachusetts. And it was just an interesting conversation to me. So I'm just wondering, Woodstock has a ton of things out there, especially the languages, and that it is close. And I'm guessing $12,000 tuition is a whole lot less than Marianapolis and Concord. So is there habit efforts
We did a pretty strong marketing effort with the parochial and private schools in the area back in the fall. Most of them have high school life, I guess, is what like an open house where any school in the area can actually go and set up and be available for the students who are graduating and stuff. And we attended every one of them. We've also sent marketing pieces. There's only so much control you have over that. I mean, we send it to the school to hand out to the students. We also send it to their homes when we're able to get that information from them out. Our mailing address. So yes, we've increased that, but actually this is only the second year we've done it. And it's one of those things very much like trying to get into the European and South American international student market. It takes a couple of years to get your name out there so that people understand. Most people don't understand that Woodstock Academy is a place that they can actually enroll. So it's taking us a little bit of time to get that message out. We do have students from Suffolk, and I'm not sure which school you're directly talking about, but we have a number of students that have applied from several of the appropriate schools that we've been a part of, and we're working with them to try to get them to actually accept the enrollment. Any other questions? Any from up here?